Back on the Bobcast here, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. Matt Ambrose sitting down with tennis head coach Jeff Splinter. Coach, the women got the victory on Friday, a match against Bethany. And fall season's all wrapped up. You guys are off until the beginning of February and for the men and a little bit later on for the women's side. But let's look at that match against Bethany from Friday. You won 7-2 in that match. What did you see from your team that impressed you the most?
Yeah, I really liked the way we came out in doubles and kind of asserted domination right away. It was a team that we could have gone 50-50 with in doubles had we not really kind of gone off to a hot start. But really appreciated the way we set each other up at the net, putting things away. We didn't kind of lollygag around. We just a couple of them were 8-0, 8-0, second and third doubles, and first doubles came out with a really good 8-3 win, I believe. So just great execution all the way around, and really focusing on the little things we've been talking about in practice.
Who were some individuals that really stood out to you, not just in this match, but really throughout the entire fall that really impressed you?
Yeah, it's hard to bring out just one
Yeah.
person without mentioning the entire team, because everyone is buying in and working so much harder than last year. Our first year players have come in and really set the standard and set the tone with practice. So a lot of those guys give credit. We're dealing with our starting lineup of mostly first year and second year players, and they've really stepped up to the challenge. Over the course of the semester, you can see their confidence kind of grow as we go along, and it's all kind of stemmed from our senior leadership, from Allison Paul, the captain. She exudes confidence and instills that in the rest of them, and we have a really good cohesive unit that just really works well together, supports each other, and kind of goes a little bit crazy on the sideline for each other.
Yeah. Uh, like you were mentioning off the top, your team won all but two singles matches, swept doubles. What does that say about the preparation that your players really put into this match?
Yeah, it's what we've been. It's an ongoing process from the first day of practice until now. We've been focusing on in doubles, focusing on being consistent from the baseline, and then setting each other up at the net and just kind of putting away overheads. Anything that we can volley, we're going to go ahead and volley, and just kind of out out maneuvering the other team, waiting for them to make a mistake or forcing them to hit a shot that's low percentage. And we took the same kind of mindset into singles, and we won 4 out of 6 singles matches. Really close there with 3 singles match with Sarah. Um, had we been, we were doing exactly what we wanted to. Still would like to see a little bit more of putting away shorter balls and really being able to attack more. I thought Bethany was a team we could have used to really work on some shots, and they were a competitive team for us. But we have to be able to put balls away when we get them, and we're still working on that piece.
The women's side was able to win the final two matches that they had this fall, defeating Cal U of Pennsylvania and then, of course, Bethany this past weekend. What really helped flip the switch for this team these last two matches to end the fall season on a good note?
Yeah, we're on a winning streak right now. We're hot.
That's right.
Bobcats are looking good. Um, so these last couple of matches in the fall, we were able to really focus and play the way we wanted to. We started out with a really heavy schedule against some top of the line tier two double or division two teams with Millersville and DC, and it got our mindset in the right place. We could have accepted that as losses and not tried, but we will use those to work hard and play our best. We took a tough loss to Penn State Altoona in the midway of the fall, and then after that we decided we weren't going to lose those close games anymore. It's a mental switch. Um, the women on the team didn't like that, and took it personally. So going into Cal U and Bethany were both competitive matches. We were able to come out on the right side that time because we know what it felt like, and we don't want to feel that way again.
Looking at really this whole fall season as a whole, from the beginning of it back in early September to now, what do you see as the biggest growth that really, you could put this for both sides, but primarily for the women because they had a couple extra meets here at the tail end. What did you really see as the biggest growth for the women's side from the start to finish of this fall season?
I think it's our consistency. We really focused in practice. It's unbelievable how much they pay attention and learn during practice. We don't waste any time during our 2-hour practice times. We gather up the balls. We meet together really quickly. We get into the next drill, and we're excited to keep going and keep learning. And we're focusing on learning shots at a time. Kind of evolving our tennis games. That's been the one thing we've been focusing on every week is kind of giving ourselves a shot that we can focus on in order to evolve our game, be better, be more predictable, and just kind of going off that. I think from the beginning of the semester to now, they've just added more tools to their tool belt. They've grown and been more consistent, and because of that consistency, they're able to do a little bit more and kind of go outside their comfort zone.
With winning these last two matches, we talked about how they kind of flipped that switch, but now going into this rest period until February, how does this really set the tone for the women's team heading into this break with that confidence of winning like you said, winning those close matches, things that they weren't doing to start the year, but they were able to do here the last few meets. How does that really set the tone for them heading into this rest period and then into the spring?
Yeah, I think it's great. We're going to we're going to have meetings and talk about what we need to work on going into the winter season, and we'll have a couple hours of individual practice per week that we can focus on, and it's just kind of nailing down those little things that can again make us better, and bringing up our weak spots so that we're more well-rounded. Um, and then we're just going into the lab. We're going to be watching film. We're going to be breaking down matches. We're going to be kind of seeing what we could have done better, and then we're going to be in the weight room and just kind of getting stronger, better, faster, quicker, and it's going to be a whole different team come next semester. So looking forward to it.
You're going to use this week. You told me before we go. We started this interview with one last week to kind of go at it with practice before kind of lightening the load a bit. What really goes into these? It's now 3.5 months really. What really goes into that time frame to keep your players sharp? Because it's a long time off to really have these meets, and then kind of take off a couple months, and then have to get back in it in the spring. How do you keep the players sharp?
Yeah, it's keeping them focused on one thing. We really want to keep that emphasis on academics, of course.
Yes.
But we want to make sure that we're also able to kind of grow as tennis players, grow as people. So, it's just giving them little things to work on. We don't want to be doing major things at one time. So, once we get that going through, we'll have a we're gonna have a fun practice this week. We're going to do a mixed doubles tournament with our guys and girls to kind of mix together and see who kind of comes out on top. So that should be a lot of fun for them. Fun way to finish out the fall season.
All right. Well, Coach, congratulations on the win on Friday, and best of luck to you for this next couple months getting some work in.
Thanks a lot.
Next up on the Bobcast, here presented by the Bobcat Sports Network, we are talking to football head coach Delane Fitzgerald. Coach, you improved to 6-1 on the season this past Thursday, a 42-7 win over Charleston, and you are back on the road on Saturday, 1 o'clock, taking on Wheeling. So looking back to Thursday's game against Charleston, what were your overall takeaways from that matchup?
You guys always know things that I don't know or I don't remember. I didn't know we had won 6 games. I knew we had won a couple of games in a row, maybe a handful in a row. Good for us. Hey, good for us, good for the kids. What was my take on Charleston? Our football program and the young men in our football program did a great job of getting themselves ready to play on a short week. So we go on a road and don't play so well against West Virginia Wesleyan. The guys came home, got themselves refocused, re-energized, and were ready to play. When you're on a short week in college football and just, hey, in athletics and in life in general, if you're the most excited person to be there, if you're the most excited person in the room, your chances at success is a lot better than the people that aren't excited to be there. The 80 guys that we dressed out on Thursday night, they were a lot more excited to be there and a lot more excited to play football Thursday night than Charleston was.
And this was the second time this season you had to deal with that short week of preparation. You had to do that for the West Liberty week after you played Concord, the second to third game of this year. That's something you've only had to deal with playing, going from Saturday to Thursday. You've had to do that one time in your head coaching career. That was back in 2010 with Southern Virginia. How difficult is it to prepare to play a football game on that kind of short preparation time frame?
He pulled out 2010 at Southern Virginia.
Yes, sir.
Let's quiz you. I know who we playing that night. Who was the short week against?
I didn't write that part down.
What was the score the week before? We got beat by Brevard, which was a full scholarship Division II team at the time, and we had no scholarships at Southern Virginia. We got beat by about 50 points by Brevard, and we had 5 days to get ready to play a nationally ranked Bridgewater team in the Stag Bowl in Salem. So at where the national title game was played at that point in time, was actually beating Bridgewater in the fourth quarter. We were up maybe a touchdown, ended up losing by about a touchdown. So that they had an NFL wide receiver that we couldn't match up on. We were bracketing him, had him double teamed, and he was still picking us apart. So your question was about the turnaround.
Yeah, how difficult is it to prepare for that?
Yeah, I told the news reporter on Thursday night this, and football is football is football. It's not difficult. We did the same thing last week that we do every single week of the year. We just did it in a little more condensed version. So, and instead of having some walkthroughs and some practices that aren't of great importance, we just take those and throw them out, and we just do the 4 or 5 important practices to get them ready. We didn't do anything different last week than we have every week for the last 5 years.
This game was moved from a Saturday afternoon to a Thursday night for TV purposes. Was that any point of emphasis in kind of phasing out all the fanfare, I guess, for lack of a better term, surrounding the game, or was that something you kind of welcomed?
Any chance we're going to get on national TV and to showcase our great university and our great football program and our great student body, we should take advantage of that. If they call us today and tell us that Wheeling would like to, ESPN's going to put us in Wheeling on TV tomorrow night for the Tuesday night, MAC game of the week, Sun Belt game of the week, we should jump at that opportunity, even if it is on short rest. I thought I can't think of one single scenario in which Thursday night wasn't good for our university and wasn't good for our football program. So good for us.
So let's look at the game itself. Gavin Lavatte had another huge game, season high 143 yards for him, 12 off his career high, third 100-yard game for him this season. What allowed Gavin to have such a productive night on Thursday?
He got great blocking up front. So those guys up front, I'll get to naming them and forget some people, but there's Greg Gaines and Brandon Dillard and Jason Money and Wade Olson and Gene Robinson and Andrew Griffith and Gotti. So somebody want to pronounce Gottlieb's last name?
IEJ.
There you go. Gottlieb IEJ. Even though if I was pronouncing it with it being spelled, I'd probably say something different. But, those young men, those 6'7" young men up front doing a great job blocking for him, that helps. And they're good football players. Now on Gavin played about as bad as I've ever seen him play at West Virginia Wesleyan the week before, and he fumbled the ball 3 or 4 times. And when he didn't fumble it, he was trying to fumble it against Wesleyan, but didn't run hard and didn't run well, and his vision wasn't very good. He was motivated. He was motivated on a short week to come back and to prove people that he can play. And Gavin, this football program matters to him, and how good a player he is in this program matters to him. And I think Gavin's legacy matters to him going forward, because he's getting close to breaking a bunch of the school records. So hey, good for Gavin that he's motivated and that he bounced back on Thursday night, and then good for us that we have him on our team. I'd much rather be playing with him than playing against him.
Yeah, 300-yard games for him this year, 2 other games in which he finished just shy of that, 99 and 98 in 2 other games. You've ran 67 plays on Thursday. 51 of those plays were on the ground. Was this kind of just your effort to control the football, or did the weather, with it being cold and windy throughout the entire game, Did that really dictate your scheme going into this matchup?
No, when you start the football game and you're 3 for 6 throwing it, and then you're 3 for 7 throwing it, we go in at halftime, we're 3 for 10 throwing it. Well, it's an indicator that we're not going to be very good throwing the football tonight. So you go to doing something different. Now, Will Brunson's capable of having big games, and he's had a bunch of big games already this year. And our wide receiver core is really good, so he's got good players to throw the football to. We're not going to be afraid to throw the ball down the road, but we know if we get in a situation with, hey, we're not executing or the weather's bad and we just can't throw the football, that we're going to be able to run the football.
So the beginning of the second quarter was really the turning point in the game. You had the Strand fumble recovery for the touchdown. Second play of the next drive, Trevor Booker's interception leads to a touchdown. And then the Jeremy Harrison kickoff that was recovered by Michael Morgan sets up a third touchdown. In total, you had 21 points scored in just over 4 minutes of that game. What was the feeling like on the sideline during that stretch? Because it seemed like the game in the blink of an eye just kind of turned sideways.
Yeah, with the exception of 2 drives on Thursday night, our defense played exceptionally well. Played hard and ran to the football and played great team defense. You take your hat off to those guys on defense. That linebacker core probably doesn't get enough credit, but Wayne Palmer and Jake Brochard and Monty Jones and Matt Meyer and Mike Morgan, and I'm leaving out some good linebackers that play for us. Ran to the football and played really, really hard. Also, our defensive staff for getting them ready to play and getting them to run to the football and play that hard and getting all of our guys to play together as a team. But you talked about that stretch in the second quarter. You know, Zach gets the sack, and hey, there's a stat line for you. Sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery, touchdown, all on one play. That's filling up the stat sheet on one play now. But we talked a couple of weeks ago about there were good things to come for Zach, and Zach was going to make plays, down the road for us, and he did. And he's going to continue to make plays for us. He's a good football player. That happens, and then a couple plays later, they throw the interception to Trevor Booker, and Coach Kelly and I have disagreed on him copping when you drop a defensive end or drop a nose guard or tackle. It's called copping him copping the defensive ends, and it worked out for us that time. We've been burned on that call, that defensive call, a couple of times this year. Where we dropped the defensive ends. Well, we didn't get burnt the other night. He threw the interception. Trevor was good enough to catch the football, so that was impressive because the young man threw a dart now, and then Trevor caught it at short range. And then we turn around after the score and kick off, and then luck is when preparation meets opportunity. We kick off, and it's a normal kickoff. It should have been fielded in the air. And if it wasn't fielded in the air, he should have been fielded on the bounce. Well, when that football bounced, Mike Morgan wanted the football more than their returner wanted the football. And, hey, there's a storyline for you now in age now, okay? The young man that stands there and watches that bounce, his father and I played together for 3 years of college and actually had a locker beside each other. His last name's Fleshman, mine's Fitzgerald. They used to put us in alphabetical order. So his father and I were in a locker beside each other at James Madison, but he let that ball bounce and watched it bounce. Mike Morgan comes flying in and recovered it. Mike was moving so fast that I thought a DB had recovered it. So Mike's 6'1", 215, 220-pound linebacker, but he was moving so fast, I thought one of our little DBs had jumped on it. So good for us, good for Mike.
You talked about the defense and how key they were in this game. You were going up against a quarterback in Brent Grissel for Charleston, who was second in the country in Division II in passing yards heading into that matchup on Thursday night. And you really held him in check throughout the entire night. What was your approach in trying to game plan for a quarterback like Grissel?
Yeah, John Kelling's game plan was really good on Thursday night, our defensive coordinator. And then Kyle Wiggins and Peter Mayer coaching those DBs and having them ready to play, and John Kelling and Matt Puffenbarger coaching the linebackers and having them ready to play. Now, when you ask what the plan is, the plan was to get pressure on the quarterback. So we knew that if the play went 4, 5, 6 seconds, we couldn't cover their receivers because they've got good players. So we pressed them and got in their face and didn't give them any short stuff, didn't give them a lot of the short yardage throws that they would hit if we backed off of them, and then we got pressure before they could hit the deep ball on us.
It seems like every week when either I'm talking to you, Fielder, or Brandon, one of us is talking with you, one of the questions is about that pass rush. whether it be Carl Leagueway having a big game, Zach Strand having a big game, if any of the big boys in the middle having a big game as well. Someone is consistently getting pressure on the quarterback each week. What is it about that front four that allows them to have so much success week in and week out?
Well, you named Zach Strand, Carl Ligway, and Trevor Booker. I'll
Yes.
give you a key to something that happens here that doesn't happen at a lot of small schools. Those kids never go home. So they stay here year round, and all three of them found jobs here in town this summer. So they were working out that they put themselves through two-a-days this summer, and I'll give y'all a really good story. Is there were times when those three would be down doing pass rush drills in the morning at 7:30 a.m. and then they go work an 8-hour day, and then they come back in the evening and work out. With everybody that's in town for the summer, the whole team that's here. They come back in and work out with them, and then go down and do all their sprints and their runs and their change of direction running in the evenings, and then do pass rush drills again. So there were a lot of times this summer when they were doing pass rush drills twice a day, along with a full-time job and with working out and with their running. Well, that translated into a lot of success on Thursday nights and Saturdays. So they've worked at it, and they're continuing to perfect their craft of rushing the pass rusher, and they just do it better than the offensive line does of protecting them. Now, they're helped. Those guys inside, Robert Horsey is getting better each week, and he's doing a nice job inside rushing the passer. Walter Riley's been a good player here for 4 years, and as a senior, he's a really good player at the three technique position. Those guys in there help them by freeing them up outside.
So a couple weeks ago, homecoming, you had a 24-0 lead on Urbana with 8.5 minutes left to play, and you said that you weren't too happy with how the team played down the stretch in that game, having that big lead. Now, on Thursday, you're up 28-0 in the second quarter. What did your team learn from that Urbana game and how they played down the stretch and how they were able to change that mindset and that approach, having a similar lead but with a lot more time left to play against Charleston?
Yeah, the Urbana game made it fresh in my memory at how fast it can change. Just how fast, if a team gets momentum, how fast they can score 24 points, because it's just 3 touchdowns, 3 two-point conversions. I was still nervous well into the second half and into the fourth quarter. We talked over the headset with the coordinators about we weren't going to put the backups in until we had less than 6.5 minutes to go in the game. So we made sure that we finished what we started. But now when they scored, and if my memory serves me right, they scored in the third quarter, made it 28-7. And then it hits you that they're only down 3 touchdowns and 3 extra points. So we had to continue to play hard, and we did that. I think we scored twice in the fourth quarter. So good for us. But the young men finished the other night. But you won't see us as a coaching staff taking our foot off the gas during games anymore like we did at homecoming.
Will Brunson looks like over the last few weeks is getting a lot more comfortable in this offense. He was more of a game manager on Thursday night. You talked about how there wasn't too much success throwing the ball to start. He only completed 8 passes for 128 yards, but he was making plays when he had to make plays. What were your observations of Brunson in that Charleston?
He finished 8 for 16, right?
8 for 16.
Is that
yes.
correct?
Yep.
When you're 3 for 10 at halftime and you finish 8 for 16, he had a heck of a second half now. So he's a lot better in the second half than he was in the first half. And we dropped some passes now. Will threw some bad passes the other night, but we also dropped some passes. Will's a winner. And Will comes from a family of winners, and he likes to win, and he's playing to win, and that's really the thing that matters to us most here. We take all those stats and throw them out of the window. Will could have thrown 6 interceptions the other night, and we wouldn't have won. Okay, but if he'd have thrown 6 interceptions the other night and then made the game-winning drive at the end of he's still a winner. The only thing that matters at the end of this thing is wins and losses. So, and Connor before him, and now Will, 5 straight years we've had winners playing at quarterback. And go even further than that, Kenny Edmonds was a winner when he was here for us too.
You're going to try and make it 7 straight wins this Saturday. You're on the road to take on Wheeling. What are some strengths that the Cardinals have that stand in the way of you getting to that 7-1 record?
Yeah, Wheeling's dangerous now. They're not afraid to line up and throw the ball 60 times if they have to, and they'll go short pass, let's throw the ball over the top. Short pass, throw the ball over the top. And they're trying to lull you to sleep with the short passes and then hit the big one over the top. And they did it a couple times against Notre Dame on Saturday. They are loyal to their running game, even though their running game hadn't been good this year, but they're loyal to it and trying to run the football and stay balanced and all that. It hadn't worked very well for them, but they'll continue to try to run it. You just asked me what scares me, and here are the things that they scare me. Okay. They went for it 20 sometimes on fourth down this year, more than any team in our conference, maybe more than anybody in the country. They faked a punt the other day on fourth down and got a first down against Notre Dame. I think they went for it on fourth down between 6 and 8 times the other day against Notre Dame. The down and distance doesn't matter to them. One time it was like 4th and 12 that they went for it on fourth down. The odds are against you there, but still they're fearless. Okay, they pooched a couple kicks. They usually either squib or pooch the kickoffs, but they pooched a couple kicks. We got to be ready for that this week. Because they're trying to win. They're lining up and trying to win. I think that Zach Burnley and his staff are doing as good a job as they can do with the resources that they have right now. Third or fourth year they've had a football program. So we thought last week that Charleston may be the youngest team in the conference because Charleston's really young. And we're young too, but Charleston's really young. And then you look at Wheeling's roster, the oldest guy on the roster is a sophomore. So they're all, freshmen, redshirt freshmen and sophomores is where they're at as a roster. But they're doing good things. They're sound. They're sound in their pass protection. They're sound in the run game, sound in their throw game. Defensively, they're sound in what they do. The odds are against a team going 0-11. So the percentages are going to say that sooner or later they're going to win a football game. You just don't want it to be the week that you're playing them.
All right, Coach. Well, best of luck to you and your team this weekend, and looking forward to talking to you again next week on the Bobcast.
I appreciate y'all having me. Go Bobcats.
Next up on the Bobcast is field hockey and head coach Caitlin Thompson. Coach, you got the win on Saturday in overtime. You took down Converse on the road, and then right back at it the next day on Sunday, a 6-0 loss to Limestone. And you have the week off again, another week off before taking on Mercyhurst on the road next Monday. So we'll start off with that win on Saturday. Great to get the victory in overtime there. How satisfying was it to get that win?
It was great. It was a really good morale booster for the team. I think that the girls played really hard, especially in the fourth quarter. They knew that was a game that they could come away with. So even when we got scored on in the third, we just kind of, like I said at the beginning of the year, where our motto leveled up and made sure that we got the equalizer so that we could have the opportunity to win the game.
So you've preached all year the chemistry, how important that is between the girls on this team. Describe to me the emotions after that victory on Saturday, just how all the players were feeling after the fact.
Yeah, I think they were all crazy, just jumping around on the bus and everything, and it was really great to see because they work very hard, and it's great for me as a coach to be able to see them get the win, because of how hard they do work day in and day out. So to see them get that satisfaction of a win and not just like, oh, we played better or we did this, we did that, that was really great for me to be able to see as their coach. So
Gabby Rahuba got the game-winning goal in overtime. I think it was very fitting for her to get that game-winning goal. She's been the leader offensively for you guys throughout this season. It was her fourth goal of the year. What has she meant to your team, and really just as a leader off the field, but also contributing on the field and forward of that, at the head of that attack for your team? How does she meant to you guys?
yeah, she did a fantastic job. She played with heart and energy all day on Saturday, and it was fantastic to see. She got the assist on the equalizer. She got the goal off of Madonna battled through like three girls to send her ball off the baseline. So Gabby has been, a great leader for us. She works really hard. She's a great competitor. So yeah, it was definitely not surprising that Gabby was the one to put the ball away in our first D2 win ever. So.
And you talked about the assist that Gabby had as well on the equalizer that was scored by Brooke Lafayette. Her first goal of her career. How happy were you to see her chip in on the offense?
Yeah, so Brooke was definitely very happy about her first goal. She's been wanting that one for a while. She was the inserter on a penalty corner, and and in practice, she's been doing a really nice job of scoring on the post play after she inserts, and so it was really nice to see it pay off in a game and finally get her first collegiate goal.
What was the mindset for your team going into this weekend? You had the Converse and Limestone matches. You're going all the way down to South Carolina to play those games. Where was your team's head at heading into this weekend?
So both of the games that we played yesterday, both teams were having their senior night. So our girls were jokingly saying that we wanted to do the senior night sweep. Got one of them, didn't quite get the other. So I think that was our mentality, is we wanted to go down and sweep the weekend.
In the Converse match, scoreless at halftime. First half, not a ton of offense. Both you and Converse only tallied one shot in the first half. Then things started to get clicking in that second half. Converse scored, you equalized, and then the overtime goal by Gabby Rahuba, like I mentioned. You outshot them 6-2 after halftime. What did you say to the girls at halftime? What was key in that second half to kind of get the offense clicking?
We just knew this was our opportunity to get our first win. Like after the girls kind of got a first half under the belt, it was, as you mentioned, a very midfield heavy game in the first half. But once we kind of got that first half under our belt, we got a lot more confidence, knew we could win the game, wanted to go out and prove that this was a game that we could take away. So like I mentioned, we went down, but then came back. And at the end of the game, with like a minute or two left, one of the Converse girls had a breakaway, and Smizer had a diving save to, send us into overtime. So it was just an overall team effort to get that win. So obviously, again, Gabby was the one that put the game away, but there was just so much effort from everyone in that game to kind of pull through and get the win.
You talked about Sierra Smizer, and she's someone who's really been a mainstay in the cage for your team this year. Tell me about her, what she's meant to your team throughout this season.
Yeah, she's just a great leader of our program. She's just so level-headed and friends with everybody on the team, and just everyone looks up to her great leadership, and it's just fantastic to be able to see, because when I came in my first year, her sophomore year, she was behind Nicole Leety, who was our starter. So to see her go from the backup to becoming the starter to becoming such a great leader has been a great evolution of her for me to be able to watch, and I'm just proud of the way that she carries herself and of how she leads our team.
Then on Sunday, you had a quick turnaround to get back out on the field. Drove a half hour to Gaffney to play Limestone on Sunday. Took a 6-0 defeat in that game. What were some takeaways from that game? What did you see that either you could work off of or things that you could improve from that match?
Yeah, so we ended up having a couple injuries in that game that kind of took our substitutions away on a nice 80-degree South Carolina day.
That's going to be rough.
So that was definitely difficult for us to overcome that day. They have a very deep bench. I believe their roster is upwards of 30 girls, and at the time we were only using about two subs. So it was definitely difficult for us. We had our attacking opportunities, just didn't come across on the stat line, didn't come away with as many shots as we probably could have had, or as many corners as we probably could have had. But you know, we did have our chances in that game. It wasn't as limestone heavy as the stats kind of showed that it was. But so I was proud of them for that. Limestone's a tough team. They started out the season nationally ranked. They're a very tough team out of the South. So we saw some good things out of that game. But obviously try just use this week to try to get healthy so that we can bring it for Mercyhurst on
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah. You bring up the week off that you have Mercyhurst next Monday on the road, and then next Wednesday is the final home game of the year. You take on nationally ranked Shippensburg at Bobcat Stadium. You talked about getting healthy throughout this week, but in practice, what is your focus? What do you really want to work on these next 7 days leading up to Mercyhurst?
Just make sure we're working on, our steady defense, not giving up a lot of corners, and then make sure on the other end we're drawing the corners that we need to draw. We're taking the shots that we need to take, and not just playing around with it too much on our attacking end. We really want to get the ball to Cage. So
All right, Coach. Well, enjoy this week off. Congrats on the win on Saturday, and best of luck to you next Monday against Mercyhurst.
thanks.
Next up on the Bobcast is cross country head coach Shane Brookshire. Coach, the men's side placed 8th in the Gettysburg Invitational this past weekend, and it's a big weekend coming up for your side. The MEC Championships this Saturday at Ogle Bay Resort in Wheeling. But let's first focus on the Gettysburg Invitational. Just give me your overall thoughts on the meet from this past weekend.
I think we ran extremely well. There was a little bit of discrepancy as to how long the course actually was. Some of their watches came back and said that it was about 5.1 miles, like significantly over the 8K mark. Some of the other athletes in the race too, like from what I overheard, were saying that it was a little bit longer of a course. So if it was, then we ran great. Like if it wasn't, then we ran about what I was hoping for us to run. The team performed well. I think we're ready to go for the conference meet. This is our last final tune-up, and is a little bit more challenging of a course than we had anticipated, but I think it will definitely prepare us well for this upcoming weekend.
I want to get into the course in Wheeling in a moment, but first, the two of us talked about Braxton Clark a lot throughout this season so far. He was once again the top finisher for the men's side. It's something he's done in each meet so far this season. Came with a time of 26:37.5. Just what are your takeaways from, we'll just look at this past weekend. What are your takeaways from Braxton's performance and really how he's improved throughout the meets so far this year?
Oh, he put himself in position to be one of the top runners in the race right away, and so he was working off the back end of the front pack. Going through 3 miles, there wasn't much of a gap between himself and the leaders, and so to kind of just see him put himself towards the front, is great, because he's going to have to do that coming up as well. But he's not afraid to get after it in the first mile. He opened up with a 5:03, which is a little bit too fast, but that's where he's been opening up pretty much all season now that he's feeling really fresh. And like I said, if it was a 5.1 mile race, then his time would have been a 25:56 for the 8K, and which would put him once again amongst the top in the that we've had here at Frostburg for a while. So he's done the work. He's ready to reap the benefits of it. His strength has been what's been carrying him through the races, and so he's going to need that in order to compete against teams like Charleston and Concord and Davis and Elkins.
What are some of the other runners from this past weekend who really put on a performance at Gettysburg that you think set themselves up pretty well heading into MEC this weekend?
Well, I think Jake Rickards and Daniel Foster, once again, coming through at second and third, they've been in those spots pretty much the whole season as well. They've been running very consistent at meets, and so I hope that when we hit our peak this weekend, they have a significant time drop. It's going to be on them, to kind of maintain our spot in the conference. They've got several athletes from West Liberty that are running around the same times that they are, and so it could potentially be a close race between us and West Liberty for fourth place. And so it's going to come down to what those two athletes do, and then what our 4 through 7 athletes do, with Tim Wolodkin, who's come on strong in the last part of the season. That's been great to see him close out his senior year. this way, and Devin Horseman Guy and Lorenzo Wilson and Brennan Tomasino. Like they've all been in the top 7 pretty much the whole year, and like that's what we're going with this weekend. That is our top 7.
I'm just looking at some of the mile times from this past weekend. 4 of the runners had a mile time under 6 minutes in the Gettysburg meet. What do you have like an ideal mile time that you set out for each runner, or does it really depend on each runner? Is it kind of specialized for each of your runners?
Well, for the Lock Haven meet and for the Salisbury meet, I wanted them to hit specific times, like to try to aim for a specific average pace. Like as we worked on trying to hit PRs and trying to run fast and strategizing the race and not just going out quick and then
Right.
dying towards the end. And so for this last meet, I didn't really give them any goal paces to hit. It was more so I wanted our 4 through 7 to try to work together, and like they did that. They stayed pretty close with each other. Actually, like Tim Wallachkin, he moved up and tried to hang with Daniel Foster and Jake Rickards throughout most of the race, and he was that was his goal for the race. He was able to accomplish that, and so typically I do give them like a mile time based off of what they have been racing, and like this is where I want you to be at. This is the range. Like this is for your first mile or 2 miles. Like you can be a little bit faster, but like this is kind of where you want to settle into. And so when we tried that strategy out at Lock Haven and at Salisbury, like they stuck to the game plan and they hit big PRs, and so really just keeps them from running too fast, too quick, and too early in the race and burn themselves out. Like those, giving them those kind of set mile times gives them a little bit more confidence in their own race and like keeps them in check throughout for the whole 5 miles.
So quickly to the women's side, you only ran 2 runners at Gettysburg. What were your overall thoughts on how those 2 runners did this past weekend?
Well, we had Isabel Pereira. Like, I mean, she's been kind of a workhorse. Like, she's at practices every day. Like, she's been like, no matter what, like she gives her best effort every single day. Like, Ariana Ward just came back from missing a couple weeks of practices. Like, so this was her first race since Hood College, and like, I mean, she did well for herself. Like, right there at about 30 minutes, and then. Unfortunately, Natalie Gray, we had to pull her from the race about halfway in, like a little over halfway in. Like she was struggling, like her form didn't look right, and so like she was significantly off pace. And so for me, like there's no point in having her hurt herself, like with like her stride just wasn't right, like, and so in order to kind of rest her and like try to get her healthy for conference, like I decided to pull her just after 2 miles, and that way like we can focus on trying to get healthy for the conference race. But so once again, like the ladies are kind of in a tough spot not having a team. They're all running as individuals, like, and hopefully next year like there's a big change in that as we try to bring in more recruits.
So you have the MEC Championships this weekend, Ogle Bay Resort in Wheeling. What can you tell us about the course and any challenges it presents or any lack of challenges it presents? Is it just like a flat course? Is there any tough terrain? What can you tell us about that?
Well, they sent out a digital video of the course, and it looks like there's a couple steep hills, like, but nothing too outrageous from what I could tell. Like, I mean, I've gauging the video, I've been on tougher courses. I've seen tougher courses, like. I mean, you don't want anything like too tough for a conference championship,
Right.
because you got to keep in mind that these teams are also trying to make it to nationals, and so and in like the last couple of years, like performances throughout the season like does impact like a team's chances at going to nationals, and so the course I think it's going to be a challenging course, but still pretty quick as long as the weather's nice. And if it is challenging with hills, like I think that we can definitely run well. Like these runners are strong. Like they're fast. Like we've been running on fast courses all season, kind of experience fast legs and the lungs burning. And but we've been training on hills like almost every day, like living here in Frostburg. And so Like we've had a great strength training program. We've had a great running program. I think that no matter what kind of course is thrown at them, like these guys are going to handle it well.
Going into this weekend with your runners, just in the week of preparation leading up to that, what are you telling them? What are you trying to have them focus on heading into that's such an important meet this weekend?
The main thing is just rest and recovery. They need to make sure that they're getting plenty of sleep every night, like that their bodies is repairing itself. They need to make sure that they're staying hydrated, even with this colder weather. We still need to hydrate properly. Like, there's nothing else that we can really do fitness-wise except maintain. We're just doing a bunch of easy running. Like, we'll have one speed workout tomorrow, but all the work is already done. The only way that we can mess it up now is overtraining, like this week, or not getting enough sleep to where they're fatigued going into the meet. And so it's rest and recovery is the most important thing at this point of the season.
Well, Coach, best of luck to you this weekend at the MEC Championships, and looking forward to talk to you after the fact next week.
All right, thank you.
Next up on the Bobcast is women's soccer, and I'm sitting down with head coach Brian Parker. Coach, your team improved to 500 in Mountain East Conference play after a win at Wheeling yesterday, 5-0 over the Cardinals. That came on the heels of a loss at Concord on Thursday. You have 2 matches at home this week, West Liberty and Notre Dame Wednesday for the West Lib game, Saturday against Notre Dame. We'll start with the Wheeling victory yesterday. We'll start with the Wheeling win and then also the Concord loss as well. What are your takeaways from the 2 matches that your team played from this past week?
Well, thanks for having me, of course. And, Concord, in our view, is probably the best quality team we've seen so far in the Mountain East. They do some interesting things, tactically that we did expect, and have some habits and patterns of play that we were able to scout for. And I think we got the tactics right, actually. We defended them pretty smartly and made things difficult for them. It's a matter of, tactics are kind of give and take. You're going to give a little something to take something away that maybe they'd rather not have,
Right.
So we took the ball from their number 10, this holding mid, who's a very good passer, and just let other players do the passing. And it was a little bit frustrating for them, and I thought we had a pretty good start to the game, but they have quality. Their first goal was outstanding, a little flick over our defender to another player who volleyed it. And then we made some mistakes, and against quality teams like that, we had a couple defensive lapses, and they scored 2 more. And then down 3-0, it's kind of a gut check, right? What kind of team do you have? We've had some troubles with kind of resilience earlier in the year, and so we responded awesome and finished the half, got a goal, made it 3-1. And, I really challenged the team at halftime to just really focus on the performance. Let's just make sure that we can kind of mentally reset, which you have to do a lot in soccer and in all sports, and just make sure you finish the game, the way you'd like to, and we did. They were statistically, I'm sure outnumbered us in probably every way, but we were much more stubborn defensively and showed that resilience, and got a couple half chances in the second half by kind of solving their, kind of pressuring them in smart ways, and so. Overall, a lot of growth from us in that game, and I was pretty happy that I feel like we could contend, for a conference title with a team of that quality. Not that will happen, but I think we're okay if we get a rematch with them. Wheeling, of course, was just a business like keep the ball, spread them out. It was all about our quality on the ball. Wheeling obviously. Struggling a little bit, but he had good numbers and had some reserve players to use, and so. He had a full squad. They were much more determined and seemed a little more athletic. And I don't know if they different players, but they were a bit better than the first time we played them. So it took a while for us to kind of wear them down. And then obviously in the second half we did that. Got a chance to play everyone, really pulled them apart, created some good goals. Kara Kramer, first-year midfield player, had 2 assists. Very calm, thoughtful player. Mia Harris got some time and got an assist. So obviously Brooke cashed in. We actually scored off a corner, which is pretty awesome. We're going to get corners. It'd be nice to do something with them.
That's
right. So Abby Dennis got headed a corner in. So a lot of positives, a lot of momentum heading into the week.
Bring up Brooke Shahady, 3 goals this week, 2 assists yesterday against Wheeling. She's now to 11 goals on the season. It's tied for the most in the Mountain East Conference. Considering her performance last year, she only had 2 goals and 4 assists last year. How encouraging is it to see her have this kind of bounce back year, given the move to Division Two and a new conference?
It was just a matter of time. Thank God she had a senior year,
Yes.
to show what she can really do, because she's done that, and she's just a bull. She's just a strong, powerful player. She can run. She has a wicked shot that, I mean, all strikers probably think they should score twice as many as they do, and I'm sure she feels that way because she does hit keepers a lot. But when she finds the corners and is just playing with confidence, she's very, very good. And she's a special player at almost any level, I think. I mean, I think she could score in Division One some places, So I'm actually happy that she's had an opportunity to finish her career on a high note. Obviously, we're not done yet, and it'd be nice to have 10 more.
Yes.
We've got plenty of games left, but thrilled for her. And she look, when you look at us, I mean, sure, everyone has scouted us. But I think we played everybody now once, I think, except Charleston. So everyone knows we can score. We can score against anybody in the conference, and we've kind of proven that. So she enables us to stretch teams and challenge teams and make them kind of plan for us and do things they don't maybe want to do. So she actually helps us in every way.
So you also have Audra Curtin at the front as well. I feel like those two, Shahady and Curtin, have been the talk of this team all season long. She scored against Wheeling yesterday as well. She's up to 9 goals this year, third in the conference. When you have those two at the front of your attack, Brooke Shahady and Audra Curtin, how much confidence does that give you as a coach going into each game, knowing that you have that kind of goal scoring at the front of your attack?
They say it's a game of inches. They say that about every game, right?
Right.
And I'm sure it's more important on foul balls or tennis calls or whatever. But you only need a few seconds, of creativity, of energy to get a goal and change a game in soccer. And so the fact that we have two different kinds of players who can have those flashes, it makes us a dangerous team. So we can defend and counter. We can spread teams out. We can high press. We can almost, pull off anything we want to do tactically or in terms of our posture as a team, because we have smart players and athletic kids. And so Audra's only a sophomore, and just spoke with her actually after the game, and I still feel like there's just so much growth to see in her game that I'm excited to see where she can take the momentum of her sophomore year. But she's skillful and smart, and when she's has that energy level and that intensity level about her, she's terrific too. So they've been fun to watch, and they do make us a dangerous team.
I mentioned Curtin and Shahady. They're two of the top 3 in the MEC. Two of the top 4 in the MEC in goals individually play for Concord in there. We talked a little bit about them at the start of this. They're the team that you fell to on Thursday. Dive a little deeper into what Concord does that maybe you could try, or you had troubles with on Thursday in that match. What really gave you problems in that match that you could work on?
So they are, I think, as complete a team as I think we've played, in that every player has a skill set, has some athleticism, and their combination play and speed of play was difficult for us. They're the most attractive sort of organized team,
Right.
I would say, we've seen on our schedule. And so they're very good, at pulling teams apart. They play a little more direct, They want to stretch you out vertically a little bit more than maybe other teams, and so they really challenge you, in terms of your athleticism and matchups. And they got us running a lot, for sure. And they've got some pace up front. So they're just kind of they can do a little bit of everything, almost I don't think they're weak at any particular position, really. I mean, maybe goalkeeper, but I'm not sure we tested her enough to say that. But they, she's obviously not allowed many goals, and so their defense is very good as well. So it's just kind of, when we get the rematch with them, or like what we did on Thursday was, we looked at the X's and O's and just tried to make them uncomfortable, as uncomfortable as we could. And so even though I think we did do that, we couldn't keep couldn't keep them off the scoreboard with their quality. So. I think they're good. He's I don't know the history. Obviously we're new to the Mountain East, but lots of British players. He's British. Some of these teams have obviously gone to the international route, and that freshman, I think Bell is her name, is a Ball. I think Ball is her name, the striker. She's a terrific first-year player from Britain. Lots of neat accents on the field that day. So credit to him for building a great roster and having a quality side that I think. As so far this season, obviously we didn't do well against West Virginia Wesleyan, very different kind of team, but Concord player for player, I think, has kind of set the standard.
Emily Faust is now a little over a week into her return from injury. She started her third straight game on Sunday against Wheeling. What have you seen from Emily in her play since coming back?
Well, just highly committed. She's just a wonderful kid. Every team has those players, I think, who are just thrilled to be there, and they kind of show that joy and intensity and commitment to the team,
Right.
and that's really been a hallmark of hers. Yeah, she's she's adopted. Head injuries are not easy to deal with, so she's come back pretty strong. And a lot of what you have to do as a goalkeeper is just kind of maintain a kind of a sameness, a calmness, kind of keep your pulse at the same level and
Yeah.
just try to stay focused and not get too high or too low, depending on how the flow of the game goes. And I think for Emily, that's a little bit of her challenge. When we allowed a goal, you don't want to get so excited that you might make another mistake, and so kind of manage the momentum of the game. And so that's something I think she hasn't had a lot of experience doing that. This is probably the most she's ever played in her life, and we're playing pretty high level teams. So credit to her for managing that and giving us good minutes. And, she's certainly a character on the team that I think is a positive influence for sure.
So this week, 2 home matches for your team. West Liberty on Wednesday, Notre Dame on Saturday. These are 2 teams in your division, in the North Division of the MEC. West Liberty is a couple points behind you. Notre Dame sits second. So how crucial is this week in terms of positioning yourself for the MEC tournament in a few weeks?
This is the week.
Yep.
This is it, right? I mean, this is it. These are the teams we're directly competing with to get in. I don't know that anyone's going to chase, going to catch Fairmont in the North. They shouldn't really. So credit to Fairmont for earning points. Urbana's been the surprise team who's gotten some wins and done some damage in their schedule. That was obviously a bit of a surprise to us after the result we got. So West Lib has not been getting results, surprisingly. They haven't scored in a few games. I think they've had a bunch of 0-0 draws, which is stunning to me. They must have played out of their mind when we were there last time. So this is a grudge match for us in a massive home game on a Wednesday night. So it's massive. I don't think these are 6 points we have to have, but we got to probably have 9, to stay in the hunt in these last 5 games. And so, if we don't do it this week, we got to win out probably, to actually earn a spot. So this is a massive week, and the thing about these games they're like what you would call 6-pointers, right? We get 3 and they don't, so we create a 6-point gap by beating West Liberty and beating Notre Dame at home. So they're pretty massive, and they would go a long way to securing us a chance to play in the postseason. So huge week.
Coach, best of luck to you for this big week coming up, and looking forward to talk to you again next week.
Yep, thanks very much.
Next up on the Bobcast is swimming and head coach Brian Christensen. Coach, you've had a couple weeks off, but back in action this Saturday at the Chatham Invitational. So what has your team been working on? You have these 3 weeks off. What's been the focus in training over these last few weeks?
Well, thanks for having me, Matt. It was a pleasure to be here on the Bobcast. We've just been really, ramping up some of our yardage and, it's what's commonly referred to as Sucktober, the time where we get our really hard training in. We're definitely hitting another level than we did in September. I spent a lot of time in September, covering our technique and terminology and kind of getting all of our first years up to speed. And now that we're starting to really get in some practices and go pretty hard last couple of weeks. So we're still kind of on this kind of aerobic uptick. I was right the first time.
Uptick, yeah, there you go.
Uptake is not a word.
You're a coach, not a wordsmith.
That's right.
You could be both.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I'm trying to think of a bad joke to throw in there.
It'll come along.
We'll move on.
Yeah.
So just the way our cycles work, we're gonna kind of peak at Chatham and then kind of go down a little bit next week, and then kind of start riding up again, and then go down again for our meet in Richmond, Virginia, at our Randolph-Macon, the Yellow Jacket Invitational, right before Thanksgiving.
So you've had kind of a funky schedule to start the year. You have obviously all the training leading up to Gallaudet. You swim at Gallaudet, win, and then you have 3 weeks off before Chatham. Does that do any? Does that kind of change any mentality or something along those lines to kind of ramp up, get ready for that first meet, and then have 3 more weeks without competition before another meet. Does that kind of ramp up any practice intensity uh, in training to kind of keep a competitive mindset with any of the swimmers?
A little bit, but that was very much on purpose.
Yeah.
I wanted to have them first. I wanted to give them a dedicated weekend off in October to kind of go back and see their families and stuff. And it was nice to have this past weekend. We actually had 15 recruits on campus across Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. So that was a huge recruiting weekend for us. So we definitely had like stuff to do. Last year we had 8 straight weekends of meets, which was just kind of it was kind of tough, to have that much commitment where this team's sucking up every single weekend for these kids. Sometimes it's nice to have just practice, and then you can kind of have the rest of your day, because I want that life balance to be in a good spot too, and I think that keeps us fresh for other meets to come. And I think something that's not necessarily like a football that has to be every week, or baseball it's like every day. It's okay to have some time in between. I think training is really the goal right now. Competition, like we'll get the competitive experience in November and December, and we'll be just fine with that.
I think it's also different because you bring up football now. It's like when in that sport, it's kind of like there's a distinct difference between playing a game and practicing.
Yeah.
For something like swimming, and you've said it when we talked last on the Bobcast. It's a lot about just times and just making sure that the times are where they need to be. Competitive is part of it, but it's kind of just making sure, like you said before, just making sure those times are where they need to be.
Yeah.
So when you just looking at Chatham for this weekend, you scheduled them last year. The meet got canceled. But what can you tell us about kind of what they present as an opponent for your team?
So there'll be 4 teams there: Chatham, Franciscan, and Juniata, which were shaping up to be a good meet last year. I don't know if you recall, it was actually that synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh last year, which was about a block away from us, which was a really terrifying tragedy.
Yeah.
That meet was canceled, kind of out of respect for the 14 victims who were shot that day. Which is definitely on my mind.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's my own experience at Chatham.
Yeah.
It was kind of this horrible national tragedy, as far as an opponent, it's exciting going up there. Chatham's head coach Rebecca Yost was an assistant here at Frostburg, and a graduate assistant right now, Emily Turner, graduated last year from Frostburg. Was a great swimmer backstroker for us. So it's always kind of fun to kind of mix up with them a little bit. As far as a team, Yost is definitely bringing that team up in an exciting way. I think that their women especially are going to be pretty good this year. They're going to throw down pretty hard. The men are good. I think we can tangle with the men pretty well. In terms of other teams, Juniata and Franciscan, they definitely have some good kids, and it'll give us some pressure for sure, a little bit more than we kind of had with Gallaudet. So we'll keep amping up and kind of be ready for them. And I'm pretty excited for us to have a meet that's more in that invitational format. So we can kind of have kids swim in their best events instead of just events where we need them. Sometimes in a dual meet, when you got to fill all the heats, you might move some people around, kind of play with some people, but invite's nice to be like, hey, this is so much you have been concentrating on.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that and seeing how we do. It's kind of a nice. To me, this is like our first real test of kind of where we've been, and make sure that what we're doing in practice is the right thing, and we'll adjust if it hasn't been, but we'll kind of figure it out.
Who are when you look at your swimmers, both on the men's and women's side, who are some swimmers that you're looking to have a big weekend, who you've seen perform in these last 3 weeks in training? Who can you see have that translate to this meet this weekend?
I'm excited for Miles Henderson. He's a freshman. He did like a 5:35, 500 from a push the other day. He was like a 5:27 at Gallaudet, so I think he's ready to drop a lot and be really good. James Harmon, breaststroker, is kind of ready to go too. Also a first-year athlete who is, I think, been doing pretty well in practice, which is exciting. Hunter McFalls, senior, is also ready to drop. He had a really good practice on Saturday, um, and it was kind of really exciting to see. And then on the women's side, we've been kind of like I think we do really well. Maya Wilson has been swimming better than she ever has in her life. Um, on the freshman side, Sydney Koval just like comes in every day and like works hard, and I think is going to have a pretty good meet. And then I think we talked about it earlier, but like Megan Hendershot is already like she had kind of a rough season last year. But she really, had some attitude adjustments, kind of got her head on straight this year, and is like been really kicking butt. It's been awesome to watch. Even in like inter squad meet in Gallaudet, doing times that she did not come close to last year. Just a complete 180, and I think much for the better. She's gonna have a really good meet.
Last time we spoke, it was before the Gallaudet meet, and you said you were really just focused on just getting back in the pool and getting times, getting used to swimming in meets again.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you said since we've been talking that this is kind of going to be a step up for the second meet of the year. What are your expectations with having that be a step up from the first meet of the year? What expectations do you have for this meet this weekend for your swimmers?
Yeah, I mean it's similar because we are still. It's not like we fix everything after one meet.
Yeah.
So it's still a little bit of that of like it's still early in the season, still kind of getting used to racing again. But the pressure is a little bit more where it's like it's less of an excuse if they make some small mistake.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, it's the first meet out, you'll get it next time. It's gonna be more like, okay, we need to be on top of some of these things. But there's that spectrum where it's not totally like champs level where it's like, hey, I expect you to get a lifetime best. But it's like I want you to race hard and do well and keep having good races. I'm looking at more good races than like good times right now, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No. Well, best of luck for you and your team this weekend at Chatham, and looking forward to talking to you for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to always give a shout out
Absolutely.
to my fiancee Sarah and her cat Missy. She'll know what that means. She listens to this podcast.
That's great.
Oh, her and only her will know that. Thank you very much, and go Bobcats.
Next up on the Bobcast is volleyball, and I'm sitting down with head coach Becky Fletcher. Coach, 3 matches over this weekend. You had a loss at Charleston and West Virginia State, but got the victory on Sunday against Salem on the road. You're back home this coming weekend. Glenville State on Friday, Concord on Saturday. So my first question to you, you had a very busy weekend with those 3 matches in 3 days, coming on the heels of a 10-day layoff that you guys had. How was it? Any sort of adjustment to kind of have that layoff and jump right back into it?
Oh yeah, I think it was
I figured.
a huge adjustment. Also, 10 days off and then to get on the bus to have to go all the way down to Charleston to play a few matches. I think that was a huge factor in our success or lack thereof. We played okay. We just weren't firing on all cylinders like we were 10 days ago. So just a little bit inconsistent. There were times where things were going really well and times where it just didn't look like the team I've seen play in the last few weeks.
We'll start with the Salem victory on Sunday. Second time you played against them this year. Played them back in the Notre Dame tri-match. And then took them down again yesterday in 4 sets. Had a great comeback in the 4th set as well. What was the team's strength in that victory?
Oh man, I think we finally just figured out that we needed to be a little bit more consistent. We played well. We played okay in the first set, and then they played well, and then we played okay again. So I just think that we realized that we need to control our own points. We were scoring just as many points for the other team by our errors as we were for ourselves and getting our own kills, and that just isn't going to win us a volleyball match. We were down 24-14 in the 4th set, and we called a timeout, and we were like, or a few points earlier, and we're like, we need to get some momentum back. If we're going to go into a 5th set, we need to make sure that we hold that momentum. And that was kind of our hope, that we would just, string together a few points at the end of the match so that we'd have a little bit of confidence going into that 5th set. Because volleyball is such a game of momentum that it really just, a couple serves here or there can really change your can change your team's outlook. And you know, at that point, Corey went back to serve, and I had, some really competitive people on the court. Bailey was on the outside, and Ed was in the front row, and Haley was in the back row, and we had Bianca Smalls in the back row, and Tyler in the front row, and they just strung a lot of points together, and they played smart and they played aggressively when they needed to, and they didn't let balls hit that we were letting drop earlier in the match. And Corey got a couple of aces, which always helps bring up the morale of the team and gets your team going. And it was good to see them have that competitive spark and that drive to just come back and show a lot of character, to win that fourth set.
So the Salem win that came on the heels of back-to-back three-set losses to Charleston on Friday, West Virginia State on Saturday. What did you see in those two matches, the first two matches of the weekend, that needed to be improved to get that win on Sunday?
Uh, oh man, there were a lot of little things that needed to be improved. We got a little hesitant. Sometimes when we make some mistakes, instead of staying aggressive and trying to go after things, we get hesitant and make unaggressive errors, and that's partially from being young. So I think that was one thing that we learned this weekend, that we're going to make mistakes, but we need to make sure they're aggressive. We need to make sure that we're serving the ball really well. We are not as big as some of the teams in our conference in the front row, so to make sure that we're serving tough and keeping them out of system so that they can't run a super fast offense and hit over us occasionally, is something that we need to do. And we didn't do a great job of that this weekend on Friday and Saturday, but we did a much better job of that on Sunday.
So Haley Altimus had a very successful weekend. 34 kills over 3 matches this weekend, including 21 that came on Sunday against Salem. 21 kills, just one off of her season high. It's also her third match this season in which she's eclipsed 20 kills. What have you seen from Haley this season that's really, what's the biggest growth that you've seen in her game throughout this season for her?
So Haley, we had some chats with Haley last year. She played mostly on the outside, on the left side of the court, and we really thought she was more successful on the right side. And she was a little hesitant about it at first. A lot of the times at lower levels, high school and club levels, the right side hitter doesn't see a lot of offense. And we convinced her that the right side at the college level is just so much more fun. It's so much faster. You're seeing a lot. You're getting to be a little bit more creative offensively. And she's not super tall, but she does jump really well, and she loves to run a fast ball. So we convinced her to move over there, and I think it took her a while to realize that she's really successful over there, and she's also a great blocker. And she's also been connecting really well with our setter, with Edwina Linez. I think they have great chemistry together. They're a big little sister combo. But it's been fun to see her be more successful and more confident over there. She's taking a little bit more initiative into calling her own plays and being a little bit more audibly offensively. She's doing a great job, and I hope she could just continue to get better over there.
You mentioned Edwina Linez, the first year, just continues to have such a strong season for you guys. Leads the conference in service aces. She's 7th in assists as well. Sunday was her 6th match this year in which she had over 30 assists. What can you tell us about kind of her development throughout this season, really from the beginning to where we are now?
She just stepped onto the court pretty confident, and she's just such an even-keeled player. She's always working hard, and her teammates always notice it and tell us that every week. She brings a lot of energy. She brings a lot of passion to the court, but she's also just super consistent in everything she does, in the sets she's making, and the serves she's going after, and the choices she's making. And she's just a freshman right now, but I think she's got some really great future here at Frostburg.
So, kind of in the attacking game, you mentioned earlier the comeback that you guys had in that fourth set against Salem, down 24-14 and battling back to win it in a tiebreak. You got to have a strong attack to make that kind of surge at the end of that set. What did you see from really in that stretch? We'll focus on that. What did you see from your team in that sequence to battle back and avoid a fifth set and get the win?
Yeah, so Bailey Godlove didn't start that match, and so she was out and watching things and seeing where the open spots were, and she came off the bench and played really well. for us. She noticed that there were some holes defensively. They came at us hard offensively, and they were able to put a lot of balls down. Salem was, but Bailey saw some open spots while she was off the court, and she came in and she had 3 or 4 kills at the end of the match that just were really smart and really aggressive and able to score us some points and give us a little bit of boost of confidence for some other hitters and some on our defense to play hard behind her. So I would say that kind of was the boost offensively. Again, our defense picked up balls that we weren't picking up earlier in the match, which also helped a ton to give us the win at the end of the day.
So that Salem match, that's it for non-conference. It's
Yeah.
all MEC matches the
All
rest of
MEC,
the way.
yeah.
It starts that stretch of the season starts off this weekend. Glenville State on Friday, Concord on Saturday. What do you want to see from your team this weekend?
The name of the game for us is to be consistent, to be aggressive, to get all of our hitters involved, to let our defense play super scrappy. We seem to really gain energy from our back row when they're doing things and making great plays. It gives our offense just such confidence to be so consistent and take big swings. So if we can be consistent and play hard and serve aggressively, I think that we're going to have a pretty successful weekend. We need to have a pretty successful weekend.
All right, well, Coach, thanks for joining me this morning on the Bobcast, and best of luck to your team this weekend.
Thank you.